The cold wind cut through the supermarket parking lot. Snow blanketed everything. A single dad clutched the last instant noodle cup, the only dinner for him and his son. Near the dumpster, a ragged old man sat shivering. "Dad, can he still eat?" the boy whispered. The father looked at the noodles, then at the old man. He knelt down. "This was mine. Please take it." The old man's eyes welled with tears. A supermarket employee sneered. "Poor helping, poor, pathetic." The father squeezed his son's hand and walked away. He had no idea that in minutes his life would be changed forever by that homeless man. Adam Clark was 34 years old, a single dad who worked loading trucks and washing dishes at a rundown diner on the edge of town. He was kind-hearted but desperately poor, always putting his son first, even when it meant going without food himself. His son, Theo, was 7 years old, a bright and sensitive kid who loved to draw pictures of his late mother on every scrap of paper he could find. Sometimes he used the backs of unpaid bills, sometimes old newspapers. He kept all the drawings in a shoebox under his bed because they couldn't afford frames. The old man had no clear identity. People just called him Old Henry. He had been wandering the streets for years, sleeping in doorways, begging for change that rarely came. Most people walked past him like he was invisible. Adam had just lost his shift at the diner because he stayed home to care for Theo, who had been sick with a fever for 3 days. The manager, a cruel man named Rick, told him not to come back. "I need workers who show up, not excuses," he had said. Now, after counting every coin in his pocket twice, they only had enough money to buy 1 cup of instant noodles for both of them. That was it, 1 meal for 2 people. Adam had already skipped breakfast and lunch. His stomach ached, but he would give most of the noodles to Theo anyway. As they walked through the freezing parking lot, their breath visible in the cold air, Theo saw the old man huddled by the dumpster, his coat torn and thin, his hands blue from the cold. Snow had started falling again, dusting the old man's gray hair. "Dad," Theo tugged at Adam's sleeve with his small, cold hand. "That man looks really hungry. Hungrier than us." Adam stopped walking. He looked down at the cup of noodles in his hand, feeling its weight. Then he looked at his son's big, hopeful eyes, the same eyes his late wife had. He made a decision. He knelt beside the old man, snow soaking into his worn jeans. "Sir," Adam said gently, "this was going to be our dinner tonight, but I think you need it more than we do." The old man's hands shook violently as he reached for the cup. His voice was barely a whisper, cracked and dry. "Why would you do this?" Adam smiled softly, though his heart was breaking. "Because kindness doesn't cost money, sir. It just costs courage. And my son here taught me to be brave." From inside the store, a young employee with a smug face leaned against the window and laughed, nudging his coworker. "Look at that. Poor idiots giving away their food. Bet they'll be digging through that same dumpster tomorrow, begging for scraps next." Adam heard it but said nothing. He just took Theo's hand and walked into the store to look for discounted bread and crackers, anything marked down because it was close to expiring. Old Henry sat there alone, holding the warm cup of noodles in his trembling hands. But he didn't eat it right away. Instead, he watched Adam and Theo through the glass doors of the supermarket. His eyes weren't the eyes of a helpless beggar. They were sharp, calculating, deeply emotional, and filled with something that looked like recognition. 30 minutes later, Adam and Theo returned to their freezing rented room in a building that smelled of mold and desperation. The heater had been broken for 2 weeks. Bills were piled on the small table like a tower of shame. The landlord's eviction notice sat on top, bold red letters shouting, "Final warning," and "Pay or leave." That night, Adam helped Theo with his homework by candlelight because they couldn't afford to use much electricity. The power company had already sent warnings. His voice trembled as he read a story about a prince who saved his kingdom, not from cold but from hunger and exhaustion eating away at his strength. Theo, noticing his father's sadness, drew a picture with his broken crayons. It showed his dad with a golden halo around his head and wings on his back. "You're a hero, Dad, just like the prince in the story." Adam looked at the drawing and smiled sadly, his eyes stinging with unshed tears. "I'm a good man, son, but a very poor one. Heroes are supposed to save people. I can't even keep us warm. Being good is better than being rich, right? Theo asked innocently, his voice full of childlike certainty. Adam didn't know how to answer that anymore. He wanted to believe it was true. He just hugged his boy tightly, feeling the thin frame of a child who didn't eat enough. The next morning came too quickly. The landlord, a heavy man who smelled of cigarettes and cheap cologne, banged on the door so hard the frame shook. "Clark, you got 48 hours or you're out on the street. I don't care if you got a kid. This is business." Adam opened the door and begged for more time, explaining he'd find work. He'd pay double next month. Anything. The landlord laughed in his face, a cruel, mocking sound, and slammed the door so hard a piece of plaster fell from the ceiling. Adam sat on the cold floor, head in his hands, feeling completely defeated. He didn't know what to do anymore. Every door was closing. Every option was gone. Then, through the dirty window, he saw something that didn't make sense. A black luxury car, sleek and expensive, pulled up right in front of the narrow alley. The kind of car that didn't belong in this neighborhood, where broken streetlights and abandoned buildings were the norm. The door opened slowly. Old Henry stepped out, but he wasn't ragged anymore. He wore a perfectly tailored wool coat, polished leather shoes, and walked with the authority of someone who owned the world. He looked straight up at Adam's window. "Young man," he called up, his voice strong and clear now. "We need to talk. Right now." Theo's drawing, the one that said "Dad is my hero" in crayon, slipped from Adam's jacket pocket and fluttered down to the ground like a falling leaf. Old Henry bent down and picked it up carefully, holding it like it was made of gold. His expression changed completely, softening with an emotion Adam couldn't quite identify. Adam stood frozen at the door as old Henry climbed the narrow, creaking stairs. The transformation was startling. The old man wasn't frail anymore. He moved with purpose, strength, and the kind of dignity that comes from years of commanding respect. "Who are you really?" Adam asked, his voice a mix of confusion and fear. "What do you want from us?" Henry smiled gently, the kind of smile that held decades of stories. "My name is Henry Whitmore, and I'm not homeless, Adam. I'm a millionaire. Actually, I'm worth considerably more than that." Adam blinked hard, certain he had misheard. He thought it was a joke, maybe some cruel prank for a hidden camera show. People didn't just go from homeless to millionaire in one night. But Henry reached into his coat and pulled out a business card, thick and embossed. Whitmore Enterprises, real estate, investments, international holdings, charitable foundations. The name was more than familiar. Everyone in the city had heard of Whitmore. His buildings dominated the skyline. His name was on hospital wings and university libraries. "I still don't understand," Adam stammered, looking at the card like it might bite him. "Why were you out there in the cold? Why did you pretend to be homeless?" Henry stepped inside the cold, cramped room and looked around slowly, taking in every detail. He saw the eviction notice with its angry red stamp, the empty cupboards with their doors hanging open, Theo's worn shoes with holes in the soles, stuffed with newspaper for warmth, the single blanket they shared at night. "For the past 6 months," Henry began, his voice heavy with emotion, "I've been searching for someone truly worthy, someone who would give their last meal to a stranger without thinking about what they might get in return, without calculating, without hoping for reward." "But why?" Adam asked, genuinely confused. "What's the point?" Henry's eyes grew distant, looking at something Adam couldn't see. "Because I'm dying, son. I have a severe heart condition. The doctors have given me months at best. I need surgery soon, and there's a very real chance I won't survive it. Before I close my eyes for the last time, I wanted to make absolutely sure my fortune goes to the right person." He paused, his voice hardening. "Not to my greedy relatives who only call when they need money. Not to fake philanthropists who donate for tax breaks and photo opportunities, but to someone real, someone who understands what it means to suffer. Someone who chooses kindness even when kindness is all they have left to give." Adam shook his head slowly, backing up until he hit the wall. "I'm just a guy trying to survive. I'm nobody special. I'm not educated. I don't know business. I'm nobody. You're wrong, Dershkinin, Henry said firmly, stepping closer. You're the kind of person I spent 50 years ignoring while I built my empire. I stepped over people like you on my way to boardrooms. I dismissed people like you as lazy or unlucky. And now, at the end of my life, I finally see that people like you, people who give when they have nothing, are the ones who matter most. Henry made a proposal that sounded like something from a dream. Come work for me. Be my personal assistant. I'll pay you 10 times what you made at that diner. You and Theo will live in my estate, warm beds, good food, stability, safety, a future. Yim's eyes filled with tears that he tried desperately to blink away. His voice cracked. Why would you do this for complete strangers? What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not what you think I am? Henry looked down at Theo's drawing still in his hand, the one showing Adam with angel wings and a halo. Because I had a son once. His name was Michael. I lost him 10 years ago in a car accident. He was only 19 years old. Henry's voice broke. I was too busy making money to be his father. Too busy closing deals to attend his school plays. Too busy building an empire to notice he was struggling, that he needed me. And when he died, when I stood at his grave, I realized I'd wasted my entire life chasing something that meant nothing. Adam didn't know what to say. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I don't want your pity, Henry continued. I want a chance to do things right, to be the person I should have been, to matter in a way that actually counts. Adam looked at Theo, who was watching everything with wistful, curious eyes, trying to understand the adult conversation happening around him. We accept, Adam whispered, his voice barely audible, but only if I can truly work for it. I don't want charity. I want to earn my place. I need to teach my son that we work for what we have. Henry smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his entire face. You already gave me something priceless when you handed me that cup of noodles. You gave me hope. You reminded me that good people still exist. Now let me give something back, not as charity, as gratitude. That evening, and as the sun was setting and painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Henry drove them to his estate in his luxury car. Theo pressed his face against the window, amazed by everything they passed. The estate was magnificent. Massive iron gates opened to reveal manicured lawns, fountains, and a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. It was warm inside, filled with art and light, and the kind of comfort Adam had forgotten existed. Theo ran through the halls, his footsteps echoing, laughing for the first time in months. Real laughter, not the forced kind, the kind of laughter that comes from pure joy. They sat down for dinner in a dining room with a table that could seat 20 people. It was just the three of them, but it felt full. The meal was a feast Adam and Theo hadn't seen in years. Roast chicken with crispy skin, fresh bread that was still warm, roasted vegetables with herbs, a salad with actual dressing, and dessert, chocolate cake with real frosting. What do you wish for most in this world? Henry asked Adam during the meal, watching him carefully. Adam looked at his son, who was eating slowly, savoring every bite like it might disappear. I just want Theo to never be cold or hungry again. I want him to have chances I never had. I want him to grow up knowing he's safe. Henry's throat tightened. He had to swallow hard before he could speak. You remind me of what I should have been, what I could have been if I'd made different choices. Over the following weeks, Adam worked harder than he'd ever worked in his life. He organized Henry's complex schedule, managed hundreds of emails and correspondence, helped coordinate charity planning meetings, researched investments. He proved himself capable, intelligent, quick to learn, and unfailingly humble. Theo thrived in ways that broke Adam's heart with gratitude. He had his own room with a real bed and clean sheets. He had warm clothes that actually fit. He had art supplies, real ones, not broken crayons from the dollar store. Every night he drew pictures and left them on Henry's desk like little gifts. One night after Theo had gone to bed, Henry and Adam sat by the fireplace in the study. The flames danced, casting warm shadows on the walls lined with books. I need to tell you the complete truth, Henry said quietly, staring into the fire. My family, my nephews and nieces, they're all waiting for me to die so they can fight over my money like vultures over a carcass. None of them actually care about me. They never visit unless they want something. Money for a car, money for a business venture, money for a vacation. Adam listened carefully, saying nothing, just being present. I don't want my wealth to go to people like that, Henry continued, his voice filled with disgust. I want it to mean something real, to help people who actually need it, to make a genuine difference in the world. Then use it for good, Adam said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Henry looked at him with something like wonder. Will you help me do that? Will you help me make sure my life's work doesn't just vanish into the hands of people who don't care? Of course, Adam replied without hesitation. Henry reached into his vest pocket and pulled out the small paper angel Theo had made, carefully folded from notebook paper. It looked just like the ones Theo's mother used to fold before she passed away, teaching their son the same skill. He gave this to me last week, Henry said, his voice breaking. He said angels protect people who are kind. He said you taught him that. Adam smiled through his own tears. His mother taught him that. I'm just trying not to forget her lessons. He's a remarkable child, Henry said. He's your son, Henry replied, looking Adam in the eye. That's why he's remarkable. He learned from watching you. For the first time in 10 long years since the day he buried his son, Henry felt like he had a family again. Not a perfect one, not a biological one, not the one he'd lost, but a real one. One built on choice and kindness and mutual respect. News spread quickly through the Whitmore family. Henry had taken in a poor single father and his child. He was paying them, letting them live in the estate like family. Henry's nephew, Charles Whitmore, was furious. Charles was 38, arrogant, and had always assumed he would inherit everything. You brought trash into this house? Charles confronted Henry in the marble hall. Henry's expression hardened. That trash has more integrity than you've had in your entire life. Charles turned to Adam, who stood nearby holding documents. You think you're clever? Playing the sad dad card to steal my inheritance? Adam stayed calm. I'm not here to take anything from you, Charles. Please, Charles sneered. You're a con artist, a parasite who found a lonely old man to exploit. Henry stepped between them, voice cold. That's enough. Get out of my house. But Charles wasn't done. If he couldn't convince Henry through confrontation, he would force it through manipulation. 2 weeks later, a major investment deal fell through. Millions lost. Henry was furious. Charles seized the opportunity. He called an emergency family meeting and presented falsified documents showing Adam had accessed Henry's accounts and leaked information to competitors. This man, Charles declared, pointing at Adam, is why we lost that deal. He's been stealing and selling information. Henry looked at the documents, then at Adam. Did you do this? Adam's face went pale. No, aware on my son's life, I didn't. Charles smirked. Then explain your digital signature on these access logs. Adam shook his head desperately. I don't know. I never touched those files. I don't even have access. Charles produced another paper. Sign this admission of guilt, and I'll make sure criminal charges aren't filed. Just leave quietly. Henry stood abruptly, his voice like thunder. You forged this. I know you did, Charles. Prove it, Charles shot back. Adam looked at Henry with desperate eyes. I understand if you don't believe me, but I'm telling the truth. I would never betray you. Henry stared at his nephew. You've always been jealous, always resentful I built something while you inherited only your father's debts. But this is low, even for you. Charles turned to the family gathered in the room, cousins, nieces, nephews. He's choosing a stranger over blood. This man is manipulating him. Can't you see? Enough, Henry roared, face red. If Adam leaves, I will disinherit every one of you. Every penny goes to charity. The room went silent. Charles's face went from confident to desperate. You can't do that. That's my inheritance. Watch me. Charles lost control. He lunged at Adam, fists swinging. You ruined everything. Henry threw himself between them, But the stress triggered something terrible. He clutched his chest and collapsed. "Henry!" Adam caught him before he hit the floor. Everyone froze. Charles backed away, afraid. Adam lifted Henry into his arms. "Call an ambulance, now!" He didn't wait. He carried Henry to the car and drove like never before. Running lights, honking through intersections, anything to reach the hospital in time. At the emergency room, doctors rushed Henry into surgery. Adam sat in the cold waiting room, Theo beside him, both praying silently. Hours crawled by. Finally, a doctor emerged. "He's stable. The surgery went well, but he needs complete rest and no stress." Adam exhaled in relief. When they let him into recovery, Henry was awake but pale. Henry saw Adam and Theo and smiled weakly, tears forming. "You stayed," Henry whispered. "Of course we did," Adam replied. Henry's voice cracked. "You're the son I wish I'd had." Adam squeezed his hand. "And you're the father we needed." Theo climbed onto the bed carefully and hugged Henry. "Don't leave us, Grandpa Henry." Henry's tears spilled down his cheeks. "Grandpa Henry." I like that very much. Charles tried to visit later, but security turned him away on Henry's orders. Henry had made his final decision. Henry spent 2 weeks recovering. Adam and Theo visited every day, sometimes staying overnight. When Henry was discharged, he returned with a new perspective. Life was short. He needed to act now. He called his lawyer and made comprehensive changes to his will. He established a charitable foundation with Adam as director. It would help struggling single parents, fund shelters, provide scholarships. Charles and relatives tried to contest it, but Henry had made everything legally airtight. "You want money?" Henry told them in one final meeting. "Earn it, work for it, prove you deserve it." None of them could. Adam didn't want Henry's money for himself. "I just want to work. I want to provide with my own hands." Henry smiled. "You'll work harder than ever. As foundation director, you'll help people like you used to be. That's not charity, that's purpose." Adam accepted. Theo had a real room filled with books and art supplies. He attended a good school. But every evening, he still drew angels and left them for Henry to find. One afternoon, Henry found Theo in the garden planting flowers. "What are you doing?" Henry asked, kneeling beside him. "Mom said flowers are hope. You plant them in winter because you believe spring will come. So I'm planting hope." Henry's voice caught. "Your mom was wise." "She's in heaven now," Theo said, patting dirt around a bulb. "But I think she sent you to us. That's what angels do." Henry couldn't speak for a moment. Maybe she did. Together they planted roses, tulips, daisies, each one a symbol of their new life. Adam joined them, and they worked side by side, laughing as seasons changed. That spring, Henry told them the complete story of his son Michael, how he died at 19 in a car accident, how Henry had been at a business dinner when he got the call, how he'd never forgiven himself. "But you too," Henry said, voice thick. "You've given me something I thought I'd lost. A second chance. A chance to be the father I should have been." Adam put his hand on Henry's shoulder. "You are that father now." "And you're mine," Henry replied, pulling them into a hug. "If you'll have me." Theo hugged tight. "We already decided. We're keeping you." They sat on the porch that evening, watching stars appear. For the first time in a decade, Henry felt peace. One morning, 6 months later, sunlight poured through the estate windows. The house smelled of pancakes and coffee. Henry woke to laughter from the kitchen. He got dressed slowly, savoring the sound of his family. In the kitchen, Adam was teaching Theo to flip pancakes. Both were covered in flour, laughing as one pancake hit the floor. "Good morning, troublemakers," Henry said, smiling. "Grandpa Henry." Theo ran over and hugged him. "We made breakfast." They sat together, eating slightly burnt pancakes made with love. Theo handed Henry a new drawing. "I made this for you." It showed 3 people holding hands under the sun. Hearts, stars, flowers surrounded them. "Where am I, Henry asked, though he could see. Theo pointed to the middle figure. "You're in the center, Grandpa, because you're the heart of our family." Henry couldn't speak. Tears rolled down his face. He pulled them both into a long hug. "I don't deserve you to," he whispered. "You do," Adam said firmly. You gave us a home when we had nothing. You gave us hope. You gave me something greater, Henry replied. You gave me a reason to live. They talked about foundation projects, Theo's school art show, and a beach vacation they wanted to take. Later, they walked through their garden. The flowers were in full bloom, bright and beautiful. Butterflies danced between petals. Do you ever regret it? Henry asked. Giving me that cup of noodles? Adam laughed. That's the best decision I ever made. Why, Kai? Because kindness always comes back. Maybe not right away, maybe not how you expect, but it always comes back. Henry nodded, watching Theo chase butterflies. I spent my life believing money was power. But you taught me that kindness is the real power. As the sun set, painting the sky gold and orange, the three stood together in the garden. Three people who had once been alone, now a complete family. Henry had learned that wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts. It was measured in love, trust, and the people you choose. Adam had learned that one act of kindness, even when you have nothing, can change everything. And Theo had learned that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, and who loves you unconditionally. The story ends with a simple truth. Being kind doesn't make you poor. It makes you rich in the only ways that truly matter. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Strong Dad Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.